cute animals that could actually kill you. While this creature is about the size of a teddy bear and has big adorable eyes, experts say to stay away from a slow loris at all costs. If you even attempt to pick it up and hold it, it will most likely feel threatened and try to bite you. And their bites are filled with a fast-acting poison, so it's best to just admire its cuteness from far away. Seals may look adorable swimming and splashing in the water, but these guys are not to be messed with, especially if they're leopard seals. Leopard seals are known to be extremely aggressive and have been reported to attack researchers if they get too close to them. And even though their bites might not be enough to kill you, they can still leave you with permanent damage. Swans are seen as one of the most beautiful animals, but if you ever see one swimming around in a lake, don't even think about feeding them. Just like other wild animals, swans will assume that humans are threats, and if you try to feed them, they'll just get closer to you until it tries to bite you. Most people see dolphins as one of the friendliest creatures that everyone wants to swim with, but the only people that should be swimming with them are professionals. Wild dolphins have an instinct to attack without a clear purpose, so if you plan to get in the water with them, it's best to swim at a nice distance, because you'll never know what state they're in.
Creepy last words people said right before dying. A 20-year-old gang member was dying of primary liver cancer. In his last days, hours, and moments, he was angry. The family called the hospice nurse into the room and told her that they thought he was going. He wasn't responding, his eyes were glossy, his skin was cold, the end was imminent. His lovely mother whispered to him to go towards the light, to her Jesus. He opened his eyes, looked at her, and said, "F your Jesus." A second or two later, he slowly turned his head to the left and got the most horrific look on his face, as if he was looking at something that they couldn't see. And horrified, his face contorted, and he screamed with his last breath, eyes wide, "Oh sh! Oh sh! Oh no!" Then he made a guttural noise and promptly fell back into the bed and died. Every family member was shaking and too frightened to speak. The hospice nurse left the room and took 2 days off. She said she doesn't care if she never finds out what he saw.
AI art is not something that's terribly new, but have you heard about the woman that is haunting AI pictures? This is the face, and nobody can explain why she keeps showing up in AI images. If you look at her, she's not really general. I mean, there are specific characteristics here that are consistent. Again, nobody knows which prompts are generating this woman. Nobody knows why her face continues to appear in different models. So this has opened up one of my favorite questions about the idea that AI pictures can be haunted. And don't forget, if things like this are of interest to you, make sure to go check out the podcast.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you. In the 1400s, prostitutes wore wigs on their lady parts with fake pubic hair to prevent lice and cover up any syphilis sores before doing the dirty. An intern at NASA once stole a safe full of moon rocks, sprinkled them on a hotel bed, and proceeded to have sex with his girlfriend on top of them. Man was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison for getting his rocks off. Raphael, the Italian Renaissance artist, not the Ninja Turtle, died of exhaustion from non-stop sex. In other words, he boned till he croaked. A common hairstyle in 17th century Europe was the Polish plait. A gross, smelly mass of crusty, matted hair cemented together by pus, nits, and dirt. The hairstyle was believed to have healing properties and could supposedly protect people from illnesses. During the Iron Age in Ireland, a new king would be crowned in a ceremony in which he penetrated a horse in front of an audience. The horse would then be eaten for dinner by everyone who just witnessed them doing the dirty.
There was only one child when this photo was taken. Let's enhance it with sharp AI. Mer and Mrs. Colton were taking a picture of their daughter. When they developed it, they were shocked to see their older daughter, Anne, who had their 3D only months prior in an accident. The other child seems to be sensing a presence, but after this picture was taken, they never saw Anne again.
Did you know that there is a mummy in Sicily that blinks? Yes, she blinks. This is Rosalie Lombardo, who died of pneumonia in the 1920s at the age of 2 years old. Rosalie is perfectly preserved, from her external features to her internal organs, but that's not the strangest part. Her eyes are still as blue and flawless as the day that she passed away. She simply looks like a child taking a nap. But this child tends to open her eyes and close them randomly, like she's blinking away the cobwebs. People have come to see her for hundreds of years, and every time, visitors will leave and say, That dead girl is blinking. What do you think it is?
I bet you don't know how false teeth were originally made. In the very beginning, most sets were made of animal teeth. These proved to be uncomfortable and ineffective. So that's when they started venturing into using human teeth in dentures. In the 1700s is when sugar became widely available across Europe, and sugar started to cause the teeth to decay way more rapidly. It wasn't uncommon for a peasant to remove their own tooth and sell it for a quick buck. There was also an issue with grave robbing to obtain teeth. Of course, neither of those were needed when Waterloo teeth became a thing. With over 50,000 young men lost at the Battle of Waterloo, suddenly they realized they had an overabundance of teeth. So it wasn't uncommon at all for someone to be wearing the teeth of a soldier.
Is this the one that allegedly appears in the cemetery at night? Yes, it is. So this right here is Fabiola Rodriguez's grave site, and in August of 2020 her mom noticed that certain things were going missing, like toys and personal belongings from the site. A grave nearby this one, they have a camera attached to it because somebody had been vandalizing their son's grave. So anyway, these people notice this on their camera footage and go to the cemetery owners who say, "We know who that is." So they get her contact information and introduce themselves to her and say, "Hey, we have something really beautiful to show you that we caught on our camera." And her mom just broke down into tears because she was like, "That is my baby. I know it is. That is my baby." It also captured her walking away with what appears to be a man. And her mom, Sandra, said, "I think she was there to take him to heaven." They both have a tragic story of things that happened to them. And I mean, both of them still haven't gotten justice. So I think she was there to comfort him and take him to heaven. But yeah, I mean, isn't that just amazing?
This is the scary story about the mom. One night, there was a 6-year-old girl who woke up in the middle of the night to her mom standing over her bed, staring down at her with a creepy smile on her face. The girl knew something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. The girl then said, "Mom?" "Yes," she replied. "What are you doing?" the girl asked. "Watching you sleep," she said. "Why?" said the girl. The mom didn't say anything and kept staring at her, smiling. They each didn't say a word to each other for minutes, but still keeping eye contact with each other. Then the mom began to walk backwards, still staring at the girl with that creepy smile, and then went into the girl's closet and shut the door. The girl then got up and ran to her mom's bedroom and saw her mom asleep in her bed.
Deadliest disasters in human history, Part 1. In 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger broke apart 73 seconds into its flight, killing all 7 crew members aboard. The astronauts actually lived through the initial explosion and survived for nearly 3 minutes before they died on impact with the water. In 1184, a group of nobles gathered in a room in the Church of St. Peter above the latrine pit of the monks. All of a sudden, the floor collapsed due to their combined weight, causing 60 nobles to fall to their death into a pool of poop and sewage. In 1893, gifts were being passed out at a magic show in Victoria Hall. Over 1,000 kids tried to force themselves down a narrow staircase that led to a single door that opened inward. Only one child at a time could pass through, causing 183 children to be crushed to death.
Animals that became serial killers, Part 2. The sloth bear of Mysore. In 1957, the sloth bear of Mysore mauled over 30 humans and took the lives of 12. The sloth bear's killing spree didn't stop, and the bear just had a desire for killing. The killer sloth bear went missing in late 1957, after the killings took place. What do you think ever happened to the sloth bear of Mysore?
A family was camping in California when their son began to say something very creepy.
To a family vacation that took a strange turn. They visited the same area where a missing woman was last seen.
He said that there was a woman staring at him in the field nearby.
Got goosebumps. He says she needs our help, but she's dead, and She's laying face down with her legs up. She can't talk to me, but she's over there. We need to go help her.
Creeped out by this, both of his parents went to go check the surrounding area, but found nothing.
They said she has a black shirt, blue jeans, and blue hair, Mom. He kept saying, trust me, Mom.
After arriving home, Victoria posts about the experience to Facebook, and not long after she does so, the police came knocking at her door with photos of a woman named Sandra Johnson Hughes. She had gone missing in the exact same location 1 year prior. Authorities would then proceed to exhaust their efforts, searching the area over the next few days. Sadly, they would find nothing. If what this little boy was saying was true, experts believe that any evidence of her remains would be long gone by now. Could Caden have actually seen the ghost of this woman, or is his description merely a coincidence? What do you believe?
With a black shirt and blue hair.
He describes down to blue hair. Said she has a black shirt, blue jeans, and blue hair, Mom.
Hayden was able to identify 3 out of 4 pictures of her. Detectives went back to the meadow with the Gorba family to investigate, but the case remains open.
Terrifying animals you are glad are extinct. Number 1, the Megalodon shark. This animal can grow to about 60 feet long and one tooth is said to be the size of a human. They were meat-eating creatures that could kill and destroy just about anything. If they were still around today, oceans would be off limits. Number 2, the Titanoboa. This snake weighed about 2,000 pounds but was also 40 feet long. The snakes killed their prey with constrictions, meaning they would suffocate them to death. Number 3, the Caprosuchus. Just imagine if a T-Rex and a crocodile had a baby. This animal looks like a crocodile, but it has very long legs and can run very fast. The Caprosuchus could run as fast as 40 kilometers per hour. For context, the average male human runs at just 13 kilometers per hour. For more,
Morbid facts that will give you nightmares. When a prisoner is electrocuted in an electric chair, they can feel absolutely everything. They are fully aware that their body is being fried in real time, and one prisoner that survived said he actually smelled and tasted like cold peanut butter. Human corpses decompose 4 times faster in water than underground, and 8 times faster if left in the open air. It takes around 359 humans to have enough iron to forge a sword from their blood. Just about 3,000 people go missing every single year in the US. The last execution by guillotine was in 1977 in France. That was exactly the same year that the first Star Wars movie came out.
These are animals that used to be giants, part 1. Up first are bears. And yes, we all know bears are still pretty big and dangerous, but nothing is compared to what bears used to look like. So you see this mountain, and you see how it looks like it has a bunch of claw marks up and down it? Well, that's because it does. This mountain is called Devil's Tower, and there's a very disturbing story behind it. The scratches on this mountain are actually from a giant bear's claws. The bear always tried to reach the top, but it never could. This story has been passed on to generations of Native American tribes, and just imagine coming in contact with a bear this big.
So what is it that everybody in this picture has in common? There might be a lot of people who don't know this, but they were a part of the original case that inspired the film Scream. It was 1990, Gainesville, Florida, at the University of Florida, where a string of horrific crimes took place, and it involved those students. And when I think of almost every victim involved, Krista's story is definitely one of the most chilling, as her body was first found, but her head was found separately on her dresser. There were all these suspicions, and eventually some circumstantial evidence would put this kid behind bars, especially because he looked the part. The problem here is that he wasn't the guy. This was like a 72-hour period where it was just back-to-back slayings, till eventually they found their culprit, who was camping out in the woods outside of the university and was recording himself singing songs about what he had done. And if you want additional details on this, we covered a whole episode getting into the back.
we figured, look, if we can make perfect copies of these Parthenon sculptures, the visitors will have the same experience when they come to the British Museum. They'll see these amazing statues. They'll understand the aesthetics of antiquity. The Greeks would have their treasured objects back, and everybody would be happy. That was the plan. The British Museum decided they would take a very strong position against the project. So, of course, we did it anyway. And we did it guerrilla style, because we read the regulations for the museum. It says specifically, visitors may use 3D scanning equipment in the museum, and they may use the product of those 3D scans for any non-commercial purpose. Boom, we're done. So we went in guerrilla style and made scans of all the Parthenon sculptures.
I mean, so what's the pitch? Why should the British Museum have the copies, not the originals?
The Parthenon sculptures in their current state teach people absolutely nothing. In fact, they misinform people about the aesthetics of antiquity. These things were brightly painted with skin tones and garish colors. So the British Museum could take these copies, and not only could they display them in exactly the same form in which they are being displayed now, they would also have the capacity to restore them to the condition they were in when they were on the Parthenon, so people can really understand what the aesthetics of the ancient world were like and to see them in their full glory.
Today's true crime story is pretty chilling, okay? This one even scared me, right? But anyways, this has some very disturbing and graphic details. Viewer discretion is advised. In the early 1900s in Bavaria, Germany, the Gruber family lived in this farmhouse called the Hinterkaifeck. The family consisted of husband and wife Andreas and Kazilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and Victoria kids Joseph and Kazilia. The family noticed a lot of strange things going on around the house. Andreas noticed a set of keys that were missing, and also there were footprints in the snow leading from the woods to the house, but there was never no footprints ever leaving the house. There was also a newspaper in the house that Andreas never remembered buying, and it looked as if someone was trying to pick at the lock on the shed. While all these strange things were going on, they had a maid at the time, and the maid was like, "Look, I gotta quit. This house is haunted." The family kept hearing noises in the attic, and the maid just like, "Look, I can't be here anymore. The noises in the attic, all the stuff going on around here, I can't do it." Although strange things continue to happen in the house, the family ends up hiring a new maid named Marie. What the Gruber family did not know was that those strange things would lead to their murder. On the evening of March 31st, 1922, the Gruber family was murdered. Victoria's son Joseph was killed in his crib, and Maria was killed in her bed. What's so crazy about this is that same day, March 31st, 1922, that was the same day that the maid Maria was hired. Meanwhile, the rest of the Gruber family was found murdered in the barn, and they were stacked on top of each other. When people in the town didn't see the family for days, they grew concerned, and the police came to the house, and then that's when they discovered all the bodies. All the victims were killed by a pickaxe, but the police were so puzzled about something. The family wasn't found until 6 days later, but it seemed like someone had made themselves at home. Police noticed that food was being eaten, the animals were being fed, someone was sleeping in the beds, sitting on the furniture, things like that. For years, the police were looking for the suspect or suspects, but they couldn't find anybody. So the case was closed in 1955, and the year after the murders, the whole farmhouse was demolished. To me, I feel like someone was able to sneak into the house without the family's knowledge and was living in the attic for months. That's what I think. All right, y'all, that's it, and I'll be back to do more true crime videos for you guys.
In 2018, both of these women were found decapitated in Morocco. And trigger warning, this story is extremely disturbing. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this story takes us to Morocco, but specifically to the Atlas Mountains. And the two victims were Louisa Jespersen, who was 24 years old from Denmark, and her friend Maren Uland, who was 28 years old from Norway. And in December of 2018, both of the women had decided to go on a month-long camping trip in the mountains. And both of the women had also been studying outdoor activities at the University of Southeastern Norway. They were also apparently roommates, and they were training to become guides. Now, it's believed that both of the women were being targeted by the men that ended up attacking them. Not only were they targeted, they were also observed for multiple days before the entire thing happened. And on December 17th, both of their bodies were found beheaded inside of their tents by another hiker. Shortly after that, there was a video that went viral on the dark web that supposedly showed one of the beheadings. And even though you could dig deep enough to find this video, I really don't recommend watching it. Just reading the comments alone about the video and what it shows are extremely disturbing, but I'll describe it for you guys in the least graphic way possible. Now, the video is quite short, but it begins with one of the women being filmed on what appears to be a cell phone. At first, she's being filmed while she's lying down on her stomach, and you can see one of the perpetrators trying to cut her head from the back. When the perpetrator realizes that this was not going to work, he then turns her around so she's facing up. He then puts his foot on her face, kind of locking her into place on the ground, and proceeds to decapitate her. And apparently all you can hear in the video is her screaming for her life as she asks and begs for her mother. Eventually, authorities were able to find their main suspects, which were these 3 men here. And the 3 men were known for having pledged their allegiance to ISIS. And the reason for them doing this to these 2 innocent women was because they believed that they were enemies to their god. And then in July of 2019, the 3 men were found guilty and were given a death sentence. And although one of the men did take the easy way out and took his own life, the other 2 are still waiting for their sentence to be executed.